Hello, students! Welcome back to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I, of course, am Mr. Sandwich, and I am reading Jerry Spinelli's Stargirl. When we last left off, I read chapters 23 and 24 together, because they were kind of shorter chapters, but we're also getting close to the end. So usually when I get close to the end of the book, I just want to keep going. So don't be surprised if I start to combine some chapters. Right now, I'm just going to read chapter 25. When we last left off, Leo was a little bit more sensitive to his being shunned than he was before. He's really noticing after Stargirl had hung up a huge bed sheet with Stargirl loves Leo in the courtyard and the Roadrunner bulletin board. He can't get any attention other than his friend Kevin, but he's got a girlfriend and a best friend. What more do you need? But he is struggling with that conflict I've been talking about of person versus society. He's being rejected by society, and therein lies the problem. And he says at the end there, let's see. I stared at him like he was crazy. He's talking about Kevin. Kevin says, at last, he said, you know what you did. I stared at him like he was crazy. I badgered him some more, but of course he was perfectly right. I knew what I had done. I had linked myself to an unpopular person. That was my crime. So what predictions are you making at this point? This might be a good place to just pause real quick and share with anybody else who might be reading the story or that you've been sharing along what you've been reading about. Do you think he's going to choose his peers, those around him, his classmates, or is he going to choose Stargirl? Or will something else happen where maybe he doesn't have to choose, or will there be some kind of middle ground? Will something work out here that he doesn't have to choose? Let's find out here. Let's go on to page 25 of Jerry Spinelli's Stargirl. This is on page 133. Days passed. I continued to avoid Stargirl. I wanted her. I wanted them. It seemed I could not have both. So I did nothing. I ran and hid. But she did not give up on me. She hunted me down. She found me in the TV studio after school on one day. She found me in the TV studio after school one day. I felt fingers slipping down the back of my neck, grabbing my collar, pulling me backward. The crew was staring. Mr. Borlock, I heard her say, we need to talk. Her voice told me she was not smiling. She released my collar. I followed her out of the room. In the courtyard, a couple cooing on the bench beneath the palmetto saw us coming and bolted, so that's where we sat. So, she said, are we breaking up already? I don't want to, I said. So why are you hiding from me? Forced to face her, forced to talk, I felt my gumption rising. Something's got to change, I said. That's all I know. You mean like change clothes or change a tire? Should I change a tire on my bike? What do you mean? What would that do it? She said. You're not funny. You know what I mean. She saw I was upset. Her face got serious. People aren't talking to me, I said. I stared at her. I wanted it to sink in. People I've known ever since we moved here. They don't talk to me. They don't see me. So he just wants to be recognized. She reached out and lightly rubbed the back of my hand with her fingertip. Her eyes were sad. I'm sorry people don't see you. It's not fun not being seen, is it? I pulled my hand away. Well, you tell me what it's like. Doesn't it bother you that nobody talks to you? It was the first time I had openly mentioned the shunning to her. She smiled. Dory talks to me. You talk to me. Archie talks to me. My family talks to me. Cinnamon talks to me. Senor Saguaro talks to me. I talk to me. She cocked her head and stared at me, waiting for a responding smile. I didn't give it. Are you going to stop talking to me? That's not the question, I said. What is the question? The question is, I tried to read her face, but I could not. What makes you tick? Now I'm a clock? I turned away. See, I can't talk to you. It's all just a big joke. She put my face between her hands and turned me to her. I hoped people were not watching from the windows. Okay, serious now. Go ahead, ask me the tick question again, or anything, any question at all. I shook my head. You just don't care, do you? That stumped her. Care? Leo, how can you say I don't care? You've gone with me to places. We've delivered cards and flowers. How can you say that's not what I mean? I mean, you don't care what people think. I care what you think. I know, you care what Cinnamon and Senior Saguaro think. I'm talking about the school, the town. I'm talking about everybody. She sniffed around the word everybody. Right. You don't seem to care what everybody thinks. You don't seem to know what everybody thinks. She broke in, do you? I thought for a moment. I nodded sharply. Yeah, I think I do know. I'm in touch with everybody. I'm one of them. How could I not know? And it matters. Sure, it matters. Look. I waved my arm at the school around us. Look what's happening. Nobody talks to us. You can't just not give a crap about what anybody thinks. You can't just cheer for the other team and expect your own school to love you for it. Words that I had been thinking for weeks rolled off my tongue now. Kovac, for God's sake. What was that all about? She was baffled. Who's Kovac? Kovac, the guy from Sun Valley, the basketball star, the guy who broke his ankle? She was still baffled. What about him? What about him? What about you? What were you doing out there on the floor with him, with his head in your lap? He was in pain. He was the enemy, Stargirl, Susan, whatever. The enemy. She stared dumbly back at me. She had blinked at Susan. There were 1,000 Sun Valley people there. He had his own people to take care of him. His own coaches, his own teammates, his own cheerleaders' laps. And you had your team to worry about. I was screeching. I got up and walked away. I came back and leaned into her. Why? I said. Why didn't you just let him be taken care of by his own people? Oh, so here we get back to, I'd asked the question in a few previous chapters, like, are people naturally pack animals, group animals? Like, are we used to just being in clusters, in tribes, kind of? You might call that tribalism, the idea that people naturally cluster into groups and maybe see outside groups as a threat. I think maybe I mentioned a special I watched on howler monkeys where they have their howl so that other people don't get into their region, right? They're very tribalistic that way. Are people like that, or is Leo being not making any sense here? Let's see. Why don't you just let him be taken care of by his own people? She looked at me for a long time, as if in my face she could find herself explained. I don't know, she said dimly at last. I didn't think. I just did. I pulled back. I was tempted to say, well, I hope you're satisfied, because they hate you for what you did. But I didn't have the heart. Now I was feeling sorry for her. I sat back down beside her. I took her hand. I smiled. I spoke as gently as I could. Stargirl, you just can't do things the way you do. If you weren't stuck in a homeschool all your life, you'd understand. You can't just wake up in the morning and say you don't care what the rest of the world thinks. Her eyes were wide, her voice peepy like a little girl's. You can't? Not unless you want to be a hermit. She flicked the hem of her skirt at my sneaker, dusting it. But how do you keep track of the rest of the world? Sometimes I can hardly keep track of myself. It's not something you even have to think about, I said. You just know, because you're connected. On the ground, her bag shifted slightly. Cinnamon was stirring. Stargirl's face went through a series of expressions, ending with a pout and a sudden sobby outburst. I'm not connected? She reached out to me, and we hugged on the bench in the courtyard and walked home together. Let's see. I'm not connected. See, that's kind of funny because Archie earlier said maybe she's more in tune or connected than we are. Kind of talking about nature, her relationship with nature. Is that one and the same, being connected with the world around you versus being connected with the society or the people around you? Is she more connected in a way because she doesn't value what other people think? Is she less connected because she's unaware of what other people think? Should she have to change? That would be a discussion question I would raise to you right now. Should she have to change? What do you think? All right, we'll continue. We're almost done here with chapter 25. We continued this conversation for the next couple of days. I explained the ways of people to her. I said, you can't cheer for everybody. She said, why not? I said, a person belongs to a group. You can't belong to everyone. She said, why not? I said, you can't just barge into the funeral of a perfect stranger. She said, why not? I said, you just can't. She said, why? I said, because. I said, you have to respect other people's privacy. There's such a thing as not being welcome. I said, not everybody likes having somebody with a ukulele sing happy birthday to them. They don't, she said. This group thing, I said, it's very strong. It's probably an instinct. You find it everywhere, from little groups like families to big ones like a town or school, to really big ones like a whole country. How about really, really big ones, she said, like a planet? Whatever, I said. The point is, that's an important point, I think. And he shrugs that off. Whatever, I said. The point is, in a group, everybody acts pretty much the same. That's kind of how the group holds itself together. Everybody, she said. Well, mostly, I said. That's what jails and mental hospitals are for, to keep it that way. You think I should be in jail, she said. I think you should try to be more like the rest of us, I said. Why, she said. Because, I said. Tell me, she said. It's hard, I said. Say it, she said. Because nobody likes you, I said. That's why. Nobody likes you. Nobody? She said. Her eyes covered me like the sky. Nobody? I tried to play dumb, but that wasn't working. Hey, I said, don't look at me. We're talking about them. Them. If it was up to me, I wouldn't change a thing. You're fine with me the way you are. But we're not alone, are we? We live in a world of them, like it or not. That's where I tried to keep it on them. I didn't mention myself. I didn't say, do it for me. I didn't say, if you don't change, you can forget about me. I never said that. 2 days later, Stargirl vanished. Okay. I'm not going to add anything because that is quite the cliffhanger of a chapter there. 2 days later, Stargirl vanished. Keep following along. I will post chapter 26 here shortly, and we're just getting to the end here of Stargirl. What do you think is going to happen? All right. Leave any comments, please. Let me know what you think. Like if you like, and of course, subscribe if you haven't. And feel free, please, to share my link. It is Mr. Sandwich Reads. It is a public channel. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Peace.